If you ever pull your car over on an empty road in the fog, and you suddenly notice you can't hear your own footsteps on the asphalt, get back behind the wheel and drive, and don't look back. Don't look up, whatever you hear above you. I looked back, and I looked up. And now I'm telling you this, even though I'm still not entirely sure I'm standing on solid ground. My name's Eric. I drove furniture for a living. Nothing glamorous, just a regular route I could have done with my eyes closed. 200 miles through timber country, past half-abandoned little towns, on a back road the locals just called the bypass, because the state highway had been torn up for repaving since March. I'd driven that stretch dozens of times. Nothing special about it. Just a road and fog rolling in toward evening. Pretty normal for that part of the country in late fall. Except that night, the fog didn't roll in like usual. It didn't creep up on me. It was just there. I came out of the last town with lit windows, drove a couple more miles, took a bend, and the world turned this flat, cold, blue-gray, thick as if I were driving straight into a glass of milk. My headlights barely cut 10 feet ahead. The radio hissed and died. Not static between stations, just gone. Like somebody had cut the power to every station on Earth at the exact same second. My phone dropped to 1 bar, then none. I wasn't scared, not yet. I just eased off the gas and threw on my hazards, because that's what you do when you can't see the road. Then the engine choked. Just a little at first, like it swallowed something wrong. Then worse. I managed to coast onto the shoulder before it died completely. And when it did, the silence that followed felt almost physical. I turned the key, nothing. Tried again, nothing. The starter didn't even grind. No click, no whine. Like somebody had pulled the battery out from under the hood while I wasn't looking. I sat there a minute, listening to the hood cool down. And that's when I noticed something I should have caught sooner. It was dead quiet outside. Not quiet because it's the woods quiet, quiet enough to ring in your ears. No wind in the trees, no birds, no bugs. Nothing but my own breathing, and even that sounded too loud. The way a whisper sounds too loud in an empty church. I opened the door. The cold that hit me wasn't ordinary forest cold. It was heavy, damp, almost used. Like the air had already been breathed 100 times, by 100 different people, over 100 different years, and it was tired of being fresh. I walked around to the front, popped the hood, knocked on a few wires, the way people who don't know engines knock on things, hoping the sound alone will fix it. It didn't. I straightened up to grab my phone from the cab for some flashlight. And that's when I caught it, out of the corner of my eye. Something I'd been half noticing for a few seconds without letting myself register it. Up in the fog, above the treetops, something was moving. Very slowly. So slowly that at first I told myself it was just mist drifting. I looked up. And I saw them. Dozens of human shapes hanging in the air, not falling, not flying, just hanging there, the way laundry hangs on an invisible line. At every height you could imagine, some barely above the pines, some up where clouds should have been, if there'd been any clouds in that sky. Dark silhouettes in ordinary clothes, jackets, hoodies, one in a long coat, one in what looked like a work jumpsuit. Arms hanging at their sides, feet drooping slightly, toes pointed down, the way a body hangs when you cut it loose from a noose. Except there was no noose, no rope, no wire, nothing holding them up at all. I counted at least 20 before the fog thickened again and swallowed the rest. Closer to the tree line there were more, barely visible, shadows stacked on shadows.
My heart was going so hard I could hear it faster than I could count the bodies. The first thought that came to me was the dumb, comforting kind. Skydivers.
Some kind of military exercise, anything rational. But skydivers move. These didn't move at all. Not one of them swayed in the wind, because there was no wind. But even without wind, people don't usually just hang in midair perfectly still, like they'd been glued to the glass of some enormous aquarium I just couldn't see. I blinked. They were still there. I shut my eyes for a 3 count, opened them. Still there. Something made me look down, at the road, at the shoulder. A few steps off, half in the weeds, lay an old warning sign, faded and bent, like a storm had carried it there years ago and nobody ever bothered to put it back. Diamond-shaped, the symbol on it almost worn away. As I got closer, I could make out the shape of a person, crossed out in red. Not a deer crossing sign, not pedestrians ahead, crossed out. Like a do not enter posted by somebody who then vanished, before they got the chance to put up a fresh one when this one fell. I backed toward the car. All I wanted was to get inside, lock the door, wait for sunrise. But my own open door suddenly looked scarier to me than the fog did. A dark gap leading into a cab I couldn't quite make out, even though I'd been sitting in it 2 minutes earlier. And that's when I noticed the taillight. The right rear light on my car was lit, glowing, soft and red, even though the engine had been dead for 10 minutes, even though the battery was apparently dead too, even though I hadn't touched the brake pedal once. It was just on, steady, calm, like a tiny lighthouse in all that gray soup, throwing a red shine across the wet road behind it. I walked over and touched the lens. It was warm. The glass itself was warm. Like something inside was still running, some small piece of life that had refused to go dark with everything else. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't the first person to stand on this stretch of road. I remembered, fast, like a slap, a post I'd scrolled past on a local Facebook page 2 years back. A missing trucker, guy from the next county over, vanished on this exact stretch, the rig never found, even though the road's the only road for miles. Nowhere to hide a truck out here. At the time, I'd skimmed it, chuckled at somebody's comment about the dead zone, forgot it in under a minute. Now it sat in front of my eyes, as clear as if I were reading it right then, under that same sky. How many other posts like that were there? How many drivers had pulled onto this shoulder over the years, popped the hood, looked up, and just never made it home? I looked at the nearest shape, the lowest one, hanging right at treetop level, maybe 15 feet off the road. Hooded jacket, worn-out boots, feet dangling level with my eyes. I could make out the face, or what little the fog let me see of it. It was turned down, not toward the trees, not into empty sky. Down, at me, pointed exactly where I was standing. And that's when I felt my feet get lighter than they'd been a second before. At first I told myself it was just my feet going numb from the cold. That happens, standing too long in the chill. But numbness doesn't lift you onto your toes by itself. I looked down and saw the tips of my boots barely brushing the asphalt. Barely. Fractions of an inch. I could have convinced myself I was imagining it. Except for the puddle under my feet, where I could watch, clear as anything, the gap between my reflection and the surface of the water slowly growing. I screamed, not words, just a sound, and threw myself at the car, grabbed the open door with both hands like it was the last solid thing left in the world, dropped into the seat with my full weight like I could pin myself to the ground just by sheer mass. The key was dead. I jammed it until I tore a nail. And then, for no reason, no click of a relay, nothing, the engine caught.
smooth, even, like it had been idling the whole time, just waiting for me to finally ask it the right way. I don't remember closing the door. I remember cranking the wheel and stomping the gas, into the fog, into the dark.
Not checking the mirrors once, because I was afraid of what I'd see in them if I lifted my eyes for even a second. A quarter mile, maybe a third, and the fog just stopped, like a curtain dropping. Stars, ordinary forest sounds, crickets, the far-off hum of the interstate somewhere ahead. Like I'd walked out of one room straight into the hallway. I didn't stop again until I hit town. Didn't call anybody until I was home. Didn't get out of the car until the tank was nearly dry on its own. I haven't taken that road since. I've asked around, carefully, old co-workers, a few dead message boards, about that stretch. Officially, nothing's ever happened out there. Not one documented incident, not a single news story. Just a road. Just a missing persons rate for that county that runs a little above the state average. So slightly above that nobody's ever bothered to ask why. I think, though I hope to God I'm wrong, that it's not an abduction. And it's not a murder. Not in any way we'd usually mean those words. I think it's something more like a toll. The road doesn't take you right away. It waits until you stop on your own, until you kill your own engine, until you tilt your own head back and look up on your own. And then it lets you go, into a fall that never turns into a fall. Just a slow, endless rise, inch by inch, year after year, until you're one more shape hanging motionless above the treetops, looking down, waiting for the next person to pop their hood in the fog. I think about it a lot. What would have happened if that taillight hadn't come on? If I hadn't gotten distracted by it and stepped back in time. How many inches I had left before the road under my feet became nothing but a memory. And there's one more thing I think about, mostly at night. That lowest shape, the one hanging beneath all the others, the one looking straight down at me. Because the face under that hood, the little the fog let me see before I ran, was a man's face, about my age, wearing a jacket a whole lot like mine. So if you ever find yourself driving an empty back road some evening, and the engine chokes on its own, and everything goes quiet except your own breathing, don't pop the hood. Don't look up. Just sit in the car and wait for the sun. And if you happen to notice your boots are barely touching the ground, run. Because I don't know how many of those shapes in the fog once thought, same as I did, that they still had enough time to make it back.